First of all, welcome. This is Unsolicited Perspectives. I'm your host, Bruce Anthony, here to lead the conversation in important events and topics that are shaping today's society. Join the conversation and follow us wherever you get your audio podcasts. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to get our video podcast. Rate, review, like, comment, share. Share with your friends, share with your family, hell, even share with your enemies. On today's episode, I'll be interviewing Keeper Catran-Whitney. He's an author of Helplessness, the mental health challenges brothers experience once we learn our sisters have been sexually abused by our parents. Just to give my parents out there a warning, this is mature subject matter. Parental discretion is advised. This is part one of a two-part interview with Keeper. This is a very emotional interview. It's a very touching interview. And that's enough of this intro, because I want to get you guys to this interview. I'm here with Keeper Catran-Whitney, the author of Helplessness, the mental health challenges brothers experience once we learn our sister have been sexually abused by our parents. Keeper, I am so excited to have you in today to talk about this very, very important issue and to give me a perspective and give the audience a perspective of something that we didn't even think about when we talk about this subject matter. So thank you for coming in and talking to us today and telling us about your story.
Hey, Bruce, I'm happy to be here. By the way, you nailed the last name. Cool.
Okay. For those of you that regularly listen and watch the show know that I have a speech impediment. Also, once I get my head stuck on a way to enunciate a word one time, even if it's wrong, it takes me forever to correct it. Thank you, Keeper, for letting me know that I said it right. That my sister would be proud.
You know what? I've been a chronic stutterer my whole life. So between the two of us, let's just show some grace and give the people what they want.
Right. There we go. Right there. Okay. So Keeper, let's start from the beginning. Can you tell me a little bit about your background and your family background, where you come from, how you were raised? I know that's a lot, but right. I want to give people a little bit information about you as a person before we get into your book.
Okay. I'm going to give you the condensed version because it's a lot. So I come from a family of 4 boys, 4 girls. I'll jump to a period of when my stepfather arrived. So there's 10 of us. We grew up very poor in Los Angeles. We skipped from state to state. I went to 11 grade schools before I graduated high school. Lived in 21 different places. Homeless 3 times. Know what that life is all about. And in 1971, my mother and her sister and her brother, they were singers in Los Angeles. Actually, they were very, very popular, but weren't able to make ends meet. So she asked if we kids wanted to sing, all 8 of us. We were like, yeah, sure. The stardom and all that, we just had delusion, rather, it was just out there. We just saw all the money and all the fame coming. And so we started singing in nightclubs, after-hour clubs and things like this. And so we were doing our thing, and this is a pretty important part. One Saturday afternoon, we were singing. We're barely making a $90 a month rent. Barely, we were living on rice and ground beef, having to go out to the street and grab some bottles and stuff to turn in just to get that money for that. There were days we went without eating, but, so one day we're singing and then the phone rings and my mother walks over to the phone and she says, hello? Who is this? And she looks over and says, shh, Michael Jackson's on the phone.
Okay.
So it's silent. She looks at the brother directly under me and says, he wants to talk to you. So he goes over to the phone. It says, hello. A couple of minutes go by and he hangs up the phone. He screams, Michael Jackson said he's heard of us, said he's heard of me, said I sing and dance just like him. He says, whatever you guys do not quit. You will make it someday. That was 1971. Jump cut to 1977. Okay. Motown had done an exhaustive search of trying to find a replacement for the Jackson 5 for 3 years, who had gone to Epic, and they landed on us. We were the replacement group for the Jackson Five. In fact, we were getting ready to sign the largest new artist contract Motown had ever offered anyone. So the week that we are supposed to sign, and as we start to get into Helplessness, which, by the way, is not an easy read by any stretch of the imagination. It is gritty, it is dark, and it is real. So this week we are getting ready to sign this contract. Bruce, man, we all happy. But on this particular Saturday, there's a lot of frenetic energy between my sisters downstairs, doors slamming all morning. I'm like, what is going on? Okay. So just a bunch of whispered conversations and things like this. And so around the afternoon, my sister screams upstairs, "You four boys, come downstairs, family meeting." We run downstairs. I walk into the living room. On the couch are my three sisters at the far end of the couch, and they are quiet, something they are never. They're always laughing. They're always joking. And as I walked in the living room, we have a round archway, and my oldest sister, the one directly under me, I'm number 2 of 8.
Okay.
She's pacing back and forth in front of the archway, and she is pissed. But to me, that's no big deal because she was upset a lot, especially if it had to do with her and my mom. They were all the time. So my 3 other brothers, they're also in the living room and they're quiet, which is really odd. If you're excited about signing a contract, you're going to learn what day this week you are about to become rich. I mean, as far as I was concerned, man, the bus was outside. The engine was running. The seats were warm. All we had to do was walk outside and step onto the bus, and the trajectory of our life was new. It was exciting. A couple of minutes later, my mother walks in with my stepdad. And as you said, this is not an easy topic, but it's a real topic, one that needs to be discussed. My stepfather goes in and he sits on the recliner and he immediately does something I've never seen him do before. He sits down and puts his hands up and drops his face into his hands. And I'm like, what's going on?
Right.
No one's happy. My mother, who's very bubbly, she's buoyant, she's exciting, she's always just up, 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 up. Stone face. She's giving off no energy whatsoever. Something is wrong. She walks to the front of the room and just looks at us kids. Now, she has 8 kids. She had all 8 of them by the time she was 24. We're all 7 years apart. Her first, my oldest brother, at 16, then came me 11 months later, then my sister 11 months later, and boom, boom, boom. 8 kids by the time she's 24.
Jesus.
At this point, I'm 16, 17, maybe. But she looks at us. She's very stoic. And she says something no brother could ever prepare for. She says something no brother could even imagine in his life. We were so incredibly tight. As far as we were concerned, and we said it a lot, nothing would ever break us apart outside this house. It's impossible. It's not going to happen. You can bring on any manager. You could bring on any person on the street. You're not breaking this group apart, not this family. But as we all know, it's rarely what is outside that causes the most damage, the most hurt,
true,
and the most trauma. It's what happens inside, usually, that devastates. My mother looks at us and she says, "Your stepfather has been molesting your sisters." And my world just broke. Unbeknownst to me and my brothers, this is what my sisters all morning long were talking about. So they already know. Of course they know, because they've been experiencing this for almost 7 years. We boys, no clue whatsoever. She said, Who has been doing what? I mean, words just started skipping in sentences. They were, as far as I was concerned, I was spiraling down.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a serious earthquake. Then came another earthquake. She says, I have known all along.
Mm.
What? This is not the family meeting I was expecting. This was
Right,
not
because you're
big, we are about to finally no longer be poor.
yeah.
So, in about a 10-minute span, a number of things happened. My oldest sister turns around and points at his boys and say, you boys can never talk about this. It didn't happen to you. It only happened to us girls. You can never talk about it. And like that, relationships that could never be broken between brothers and sisters lay strewn across the living room floor. It was figuratively a earthquake just slashing through our house, aftershock after aftershock. And so when you are a brother and you hear this, what do you do? Adults can't handle this news.
Mm-hmm.
You're knocked off balance. You don't know what to do when you hear that someone has molested your little girl or your little boy at school or something like this on the street. If you're a mother or father, how do you deal with this when you're in your house? And certainly for brothers, how do you deal with this? Because what ended up happening in that moment, we were now part of the abuse. In fact, we were part of the abuse the whole time. We just didn't know it, Bruce. We had no clue. None. It was the four boys, and we were just told by the people we need to speak to the most, the people who can help us understand, at least tell us something, said, we want nothing to do with you. And
So, let me ask you a question. So, they said your sisters. Now, if there's four boys and four sisters.
correct.
Okay. The older sister, was she one of the two that was abused? Because you said it was two of the four that was abused, correct?
We found out it was all four of them.
Okay. All four. All right. So
And
at
to
that
give you a
time,
little better context, 6 years prior to my sisters being abused, me and my older brother were abused almost daily by our babysitter for 6 months. So that's
okay.
seven
This
of the six. The brother who Michael Jackson spoke to while he was in high school, his math teacher tried to abuse him, tried to get him at his house for a one on one. So seven of the eight of us. So I mentioned me and my brother because of context. I understand the damage side of this
right.
conversation, and I understand the collateral damage side as a brother. Unfortunately, I understand it.
So at this time that the older sister is saying you can't speak on it, is she saying that as one of the two that you guys know in this moment to have been abused?
Yes.
Okay. And so this is your stepfather.
Yeah.
How long had your mother been with your stepfather?
My biological father was incredibly abusive. We lived in Portland, Oregon, and we spent some time in Washington, the state of Washington. And I saw some things that no son is supposed to see. So in
Mm-hmm.
1966, my mother got together with her sister one day while my father was away from the house and put all of us into my aunt's convertible, and we drove down to California. So from
Mm.
1966, well, so we ended up in Gardena, and shortly after that, she met our stepfather. So from approximately 66 until 77,
Okay. So 11 years. And
the first time
how long, as you said the first time. What do you mean the first time?
we got him out, she let him back in.
Okay. So that was going to be one of my questions. So,
Okay.
okay. I got a few questions here.
Okay.
When you found out later, because your older sister is telling you that you can't talk about it. So eventually you guys did talk, and we'll get to that. When you found out later, how long had it been since your stepfather came into the picture and the abuse started?
Well, I can only tell you what my sisters have shared with me. My sisters, their
Right.
first abuse started when they were 5 and 6 years old, my youngest sisters.
Jesus.
My
Jesus.
oldest sister, who's number three, it started when she was about 10.
10. Okay. So your stepfather is there. Y'all are about to sign this deal. You're getting all of this information. Your sister says, we can't talk about it. Your mother says, I've known about this. How long did your mom know?
As far as we know from the beginning.
Okay, so here's a difficult question. Was your mother abused when she was younger? Because you said she had from 16 to 24, she had 8 kids.
From what we know, the answer is no, except
Okay.
if she's 16 and my father is 3 years older, he's considered an adult.
Right.
So, but that's, you're asking, was she,
That's
yeah, you're
right.
asking, no, she won't say.
She won't say. Okay. When you find out all this information, what is your gut reaction to everybody that's in the room?
Stunned, silent. We didn't know what to do. We were locked in place. We were petrified.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do with that? You know, it's oftentimes people will tell you that I would have done this, I would have done that, and I call BS on it.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah.
as far as I'm concerned, that's noise, unless you have been in it. You can tell me what
Mm-hmm.
you would have done and when, how you would have, but when you are hit with that news, which is why I said up front, when adults hear it, they don't know what to do. What are
Right.
children supposed to do? So,
Yeah.
as brothers, we are getting all of this in a 10-minute span. Everyone else knows, including my sisters, they've known for years what's been going on. So, unfortunately for my sisters, and I don't want to be callous or anything about this because their trauma is devastating, but they have been digesting and processing this for quite a while. We
Mm.
boys have a matter of seconds before my mother walks in and tells us. And then it all starts going downhill from there.
Okay. So my next question is, did the deal with Motown bring all of this up? Were they nervous because of an investigation into the deal as they do background checks that this was going to come out? Why? What was the significance of if this had been happening for years? And this is a weird question to ask because I'm not trying to sound callous in any way. I'm just trying to get understanding of this moment and why this moment was chosen for the truth to come out.
Motown had no idea. In
Hmm.
fact, our manager had no idea until this day.
Okay.
My oldest sister had decided it was time for the boys to know, come
Hmm.
what may. The boys needed to know before things really got out of hand. So obviously, we didn't end up doing the deal, and thank goodness we didn't. I could see us. You know, they had our Motown already created the sitcom for us. I have the pilot script up in my bedroom. What is going to be called at Wits End,
Hmm.
and I could just see us going on and hopefully reaching some sort of fame and not knowing, but then end up being an episode on VH1's Behind the Music.
Yeah. Or what was it? BET's Unsung.
Yeah. And so you
One of
talk about
those.
trauma
Yeah.
being relived over and over and over again every time
Yeah.
those episodes hit, and people constantly coming up to us. So that ended that, even though some of us still tried to continue going, because even though we were about to sign with Motown, we were still with Warner Brothers at the time.
So I want to go back to something that you
Sure.
said just recently, and you said that one of the reasons why your sister wanted to bring this up is that so it wouldn't go any further, or something to that effect. What do you mean by that? How much further could this have gone? Because he's your stepfather is molesting all four of the sisters, and your mom knows. So how much further or worse could it get?
It did get worse.
Okay, because
It did
she
get worse.
kicked him out, and she let him
And
back in.
then she brought him back in. And, you know, as a brother, you're constantly trying to figure out what to do. How do you
Hmm.
balance all this stuff? And we also knew that we were trying to get out of a life of poverty. So we all expected our mother to handle everything because she said she was going to take care of it. And
Hmm.
I have regrets on things that I could have done, should have done. And part of that regret is because my mother was going to handle it and assured us she was going to handle it. We went an entire 9 years before something was eventually done that had some permanency to it. Because as the girls like, okay, we want to continue to try to make something of this. Okay, so we can't talk about it, but we want to continue to try to make this career work. And when you grow up the way that we did, you are looking for anything to help you get out. But what ends up being sacrificed are your siblings, are your loved ones, are relationships. So at
Hmm.
some point, it was all going to break apart. So what are some of the things that we experienced along this 9 year pocket when nothing was done
So we're
to
talking from 77 to around 1986.
exactly, and 1986 is very pivotal.
Okay.
We were still singing, we were still doing some things, we were still traveling, we were still performing. One of the moments we were, I should tell you, there's just so much to this, singing at the Playboy Club in Century City. And there was this rich Arab guy who fell in love with one of my twin sisters, the two youngest girls. And we didn't know what was about to go down on one particular Saturday at the Beverly Hills Hotel. He had invited us over.
Okay.
But my mom and stepdad knew that we needed a new vehicle. He
Okay.
wanted a day with my youngest sister. So the trade
Who was
happened.
how old at this? How old was your
She's
youngest
probably
sister? How old
12.
was?
She's
Excuse
probably
me.
12. She's probably 12. 65. Yeah, yeah. Around this time, she's 12 or 13. So
And this is 1986.
no, this is around 81, 82.
Okay, so this is 4 years after the revelation.
Yeah.
I, we're going to get to 1981, but let's go back to 77. What happens after this meeting?
After this meeting, as it's breaking up, apparently he and my mom had concocted an idea to extricate themselves from us kids. He faked a heart attack. He all of a sudden goes,
Uh,
"Oh, my heart." And my mom rushes over. Is everything okay? Okay, we got to get him out of here. And then they walk up, they stand up and they go upstairs. We are not allowed to ask anything. We kids are left in the living room in total shock. It is silent. No one moves for about 20 minutes. We just look around. What just happened? And so as 20 minutes go by, eventually the two of them, my mother and stepfather, they come downstairs and he walks out of the front door. And we're figuring, and in talking to my sisters, this is 45 years later, I'm able to talk to them about this. They figured, like I did, He's gone. At least mom did that. At least she got him out of the house.
And I'm fast forward a little bit. So you're how old at this time in 77 when you're getting all of this information? Because you're the second oldest.
Yeah.
So how old were you at this time?
At this time, we're about 18 years old.
And so your older sister is 18, 19, because you guys are
17. She's the older sister.
so,
It's a third.
the third. Okay. So there's an older brother above you. Okay. So he fakes a heart attack, goes upstairs for 20 minutes, comes downstairs, walks out the door. Y'all think that he's gone, that your mother has kicked him out of the house. What happens next?
After that, everyone goes to their separate rooms, so no one talks to each other. There's no conversation.
For how long?
Well, initially for 4 days. 4 days. My oldest sister, she eventually leaves. She's out of the house. Another sister, a couple of days later, she's gone. The only way that we're able to pay rent on this house is primarily through us singing or through me working at a drugstore. And so,
where do they go when they leave? Where do they go? Because they're 17 and
my older sister went to her boyfriends, and one
okay.
of the twins that left, she went to stay with her girlfriend. Her girlfriend's family let her come.
Okay, but the boyfriend of the oldest sister and the friends of the younger sister still don't know what's going on because they're not talking about what's happening in the household.
Well, apparently my oldest sister told her boyfriend, who wanted to bring a gun apparently to the house and shoot up everybody. And so, yeah,
Shoot up everybody. Okay. All right.
we certainly can't have that.
No. So so they leave and continue on what happens next.
So we have this sex trafficking situation going on. Shortly thereafter, after talking to my sisters, one of the other twin sister about 5 years ago, I learned that she had become pregnant.
So we're fast forwarding from 77 to 81. Right. So we're going back to the rich guy from
so around this time.
Okay.
So around the time.
What happened in between the 77 and 81? That's what I'm trying to get around. He leaves, your sisters leave. How does everybody come back to the house and the family, and then you guys start performing again?
Because we needed money. That was our only way of making money, was singing. And we were under contract, even though the Motown deal fell apart, we were still under contract with Warner Brothers. So we had to keep performing. We couldn't just let it go.
So everybody comes back to the house roughly how long after?
The older sister doesn't come back. The other younger sister, she doesn't come back. The remaining 6 of us try to make it work.
Oh, so they never come back to the house?
No.
Okay. So from 77 to 81, you're trying to make things work. You're working. Then we fast forward to 80. Before we fast forward to 81, when does your stepfather come back into the house?
My mother brings him back into the house 2 weeks after he left.
It was only 2 weeks.
It was only 2 weeks. And she's saying, okay, we have to figure out a way to make this work. Otherwise, we're out of this house and we're back on the street again.
So basically, she's prefacing it as we need him here so that we're not homeless.
Correct.
And so is that the reason why? So how do you feel about that being the second? How do you and your older brother feel about that? Him coming back in, do you say to yourself, we really don't have no choice because it's either this or homelessness?
Yes.
Or, yeah, okay.
Yeah. And part of this whole thing is we boys did not talk about it amongst ourselves. Because we were so in the mindset we can't talk about it. The order had been passed down by our sister. You can't talk about it ever. And that experience of being told you can't talk about it ever just completely locked us down emotionally on this topic. We there was no place for us to go. You know, unfortunately, historically, what women have gone through, what has the outgrowth of it has been, there are support systems out there for women. You know, there are books, there are documentaries, there are places that they can go, there are psychologists that they can see. There's an entire cottage industry built around women and their being sexually abused. For brothers, there's absolutely nothing. We are left out of the conversation completely. It's as
You're talking
though
about the
our
brothers of you're talking about the brothers of the
sisters who have been,
siblings. This
well,
right.
brothers of sisters who have been sexually abused. Across the board, there's nothing for us. There's no place for us to go. There are no one-step programs, not a 12-step program. There's no clergy. I've spoken to them and say, I can't help you. If you were a woman, I can help you. But since you're
Hmm.
a guy, I can't help you on this topic. So
Is it specifically along gender or sex? Because
yeah.
obviously there are some situations where there are sisters that are sisters of
Hmm.
abused. And are there groups and books and information for sisters?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
So there really is nothing for brothers
Yeah.
that are the sibling of a sexually abused sibling.
As far
That
as
was a
we can tell,
really
the first
long way
book
of
of its
saying that, but
kind, as first as we can tell, the first book of its kind is the one that I've written. And what makes mine not only unique in that sense, what also makes it unique is three sisters contribute to the book.
I
Two
love
of
that. Keeper, I want to give people a little breather because this has been, if you're listening, you're watching, and you're like me right now conducting this interview, this conversation, you are feeling a little pit in your stomach right now, and you need to take a deep breath to catch your breath. So we're going to take a quick break, pay some bills, and come right back with Keeper and more of a story. All right, Keeper, we're back, and we had to take that little break, give the audience a little breather. But this is your story, and in your book, there is no breather.
No, no. And I'm glad you said it like that because there is no breather. It's heavy. It's gritty. It's dark. It's grimy, and it's meant to be that way on purpose. I've
Mhm.
had people say to me, you don't let us come up for air," and I say, "No. When little children and women are being sexually abused and raped or whatever, they don't get a chance to breathe. This is not a People
Mhm.
magazine story." You know,
Mhm.
this is not a story by Life magazine. This is the real deal. So you can fully understand the impact of what takes place. And so, I can't replace my little sister being pulled into a closet
Mhm.
by my stepfather. She has no chance to breathe. So, no, if
Mhm.
you want to fully understand what this is, you're getting just a glimpse of it.
I want to talk. We'll get more to the story, but like I said, I want to give people. I know you said in your book there's no chance to breathe, but let me give my audience a little chance to breathe. Let me give myself a little chance to catch my breath. But you titled your book "Hopelessness," and that's a really impactful title.
Well, this
Can
one is
you?
helplessness,
Excuse me. There. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. There is a 3-book series. It goes from helplessness to
hopefulness.
hopelessness to happiness, correct?
Correct.
And hopelessness and happiness are coming soon. But we're talking about helplessness. So that all of these titles are really emotionally impactful. They evoke emotion. Obviously that was specific. What was your reasoning behind it?
Well, it goes back to what we just talked about, the inability to breathe. You are helpless. As a little boy being sexually abused by our babysitter, you are left at the whim of someone who's supposed to be protecting you. So if you're my sisters, these are the people who are supposed to be protecting you, and yet they are abusing you. there's no place for you to go. So the only thing that you feel is being helpless. What do? You just bring it all in. And at 5 years old and 6 years old, and my sisters were first being sexually abused, there's no way for them to process this and have it make any sense. Doing what he made them do to him, or it's impossible. So
Mm-hmm.
even as a brother in the midst of all of this, helplessness was me as a brother being helpless because everyone I looked to for answers who could possibly help me said, I want nothing to do with you.
So you're stuck with the emotions. And what emotions are you stuck with? I think
You
that
are
we need to
stuck
get
with
into the
remorse,
specifics.
guilt, shame. You are stuck with loss of self-esteem. I failed my sisters. I
Mm,
make this very, very clear in this book. This is my story about where I failed, things I could have done. And going into the house and hearing whispers about how come you didn't, how come you didn't see my tears or hear my weeping. I was, an older brother that could have, but
mm-hmm,
it took me 9 years to take care of it for them. 9 years. And so there's just so much raw emotion. My favorite, you see movies, you see commercials, you hear songs, and they remind you, certainly for me, of the things I could have done. The song that gets me the most is Gladys Knight and the Pips, Midnight Train to Georgia, because I want to go back. I want to
mm,
go back to a better time. And
mm-hmm.
when I hear that song breaks me because I know as a brother what I could have and should have done. But I left it up to my mother. I left it up to people, aunts and uncles who stepped aside, who said, no, I'm not getting involved. Grandparents, I'm not getting involved. Neighbors, I'm not getting involved. And I didn't until 1986.
Okay, so let's talk about that. 1986, the rich Arab man and your parents essentially make a deal because you guys need a car.
The Arab guy was 81, 82. What happened in 86 is I was about to get married.
Okay.
3 months before I got married, two things happened. Number one, my mom is all about, she's all about how people see her.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to her and I said, okay, I'm trying to figure out a way to keep the family together at this point. So I go to her. This is the greatest regret of my life. And then I'll tell you what I did to try to fix the thing. I
Okay.
went there and I said, okay, look, I know you are all about image. Understand, I do not want this guy at our wedding. I don't want him there. I hadn't spoken to my mom much in the past 9 years, so I'm trying to offer an olive branch. Okay, you need to know that I don't want him there, and that's what you're supposed to tell me. So she says, okay. I said, if you're going to invite him, know that your children don't want him. She said, okay, I'll get back to you in a day or so. And I walked out the house. I was like, oh, shoot. That was not the answer I was expecting. The
Mm-hmm.
answer I
What was
was
the answer
expecting
that you were
was,
expecting?
oh, no, he's not going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
But I typically stick to my word. And this is one of those times that I shouldn't have stuck to my word
Mm-hmm.
by giving her the chance. I went back the next day and she says, I'm going to invite him. So at my wedding, he's there. My thing is, I put him back in front of them.
How long had he been gone Because if we go back to 81, he's still
He had
there.
been gone for a few years already. But we learned
So
my mom was out seeing him.
oh, okay. So okay, I'm trying to get this timeline for
Right,
myself and for the audience.
right.
86, you're getting married. 81 is that situation with
And
your sister
correct.
and the rich guy. He was in the picture then?
Yes. In 81.
Okay,
Yeah.
so what happened in between 81 and 86 where he's out of the picture, but your mom is
He
still secretly seeing him behind everybody's back?
he's still coming and going. So when I say he's in the picture, when we have to perform, he's there. Because
Okay.
under contract we are a group of 10 and we
Okay.
need the money. So, we are trying to eat
Hmm.
is it. So I failed them. I put him back in front of them. And
Wasn't he in? Well, no, because your sisters, let me get this straight. Your sisters are 77. They leave. They're no longer in the group. So they don't really have any connection to him was there any connection from 77 to 86?
not really. No, no. Well, for those two sisters.
For those two. Yeah, for
Yeah,
those two
my
sisters.
youngest twin, he got her pregnant during that time.
Excuse me. Hold
And
on. Hold
my
on.
mom
Hold on.
invited him back, and that's what he did. And
Your stepfather got
yeah,
one of your younger sisters pregnant, one of
yeah.
the twin sisters.
And my mom wanted her to get an abortion. And so my mom talked her into it, but my mom made her go with him to get the abortion. She did
And what
not
year is
want to
this?
be seen. This is around 83. She did not want to be seen coming out of an abortion clinic because she was all about image. So she made
Your
her
mom didn't want to be
go get
seen.
an abortion with the man who raped her.
Okay. Is this the same sister that was with the rich guy, or is this the other twin?
Her twin, yes.
Okay. So so let's fast forward at your wedding. He's there at your wedding, but this is the first time the older two sisters really, really have been around him. And this is the regret that you have, is that you brought him back into the picture for them when he really wasn't in the picture.
Yeah,
Somewhere along the line between 83 and 86, he does leave the picture though.
yeah,
Your mom's still seeing him behind everybody's back.
yeah.
Was him getting your sister pregnant and the abortion the final straw, or was he still around after that?
I just learned about those two incidents 10 years ago.
Oh, okay.
My mom knew, but she
Your
kept
mom and your
it.
sister knew.
Yeah, they kept it to
And
themselves.
okay. Okay. Let Once again, I want to thank Keeper for coming on and being interviewed and sharing such personal information. Remember, this is only part one. There's a second part to this interview that'll be coming out next week. Once again, Keeper's book is called Helplessness, The Mental Health Challenges Brothers Experience. Once we learn our sisters have been sexually abused by our parents. You can get all of his contact information down in the description section of this video, or if you're listening on our audio platforms, in the description sections of the audio version of this show. You can also go to unsolicitedperspectives.com, click on the episode, and we have a full profile of Keeper where you can get all of his contact information, all of his social media, and also be able to buy the book. You know, when Keeper is telling his story, and we're going to get into the other part of the story in the second part, but he makes a point of saying in the second part of the interview that I'm going to catch flack for posting this because most women, not most women, some women, I don't know what the percentages are, are going to say he doesn't have a right to feel the way that he does. I'm a brother. I'm a son. I'm an uncle. I'm a godfather. I'm a big cousin to my little female cousins. As a man, and I don't want to get into the masculine, feminine gender stereotypes because I think that could be really toxic. And even though they generally fit, I know some women who have masculine characteristics, and I have some feminine characteristics. I am all male, but as you guys know on this show, I'm very in touch with my sensitive side. I have very strong empathy. I try to understand people and respect their plight, whatever that they've gone through, and acknowledge that. And so, with saying all that, as a brother, a son, a uncle, a big cousin, a godfather, I want to be able to protect the women in my life. And what Keeper had to go through to swallow that and not be able to talk about it, not be able to deal with it, and that anger and that frustration that comes along with being helpless, right? Not on the same seriousness of his sisters. I'm not comparing. I don't do tragedy comparison on this show. We're not going to do that. But we have to also acknowledge that even though he wasn't going through it physically, he was going through it emotionally because there is shame associated with not being able to protect the ones that you love. And I identify with that. I truly, truly do. I would give my life for all those that are actually close to me, that I'm close to. And they don't necessarily have to be blood. I would give my life for my bestie. Would sacrifice everything to make sure that she's safe because I love her, like I love my family. And I don't think that that's toxic masculinity. If anything, I think that's human. And this isn't to exclude women who will feel the same way about their sisters, mothers, aunts, or even their brothers, uncles, fathers. Because sexual assault doesn't just happen to women, it does happen to men. More to women than to men. But it does happen out there. And it affects not only that person that was assaulted, but it affects everybody connected to that person that actually knows about it. I've dated women that have been assaulted. And even though I wasn't in their lives when it happened, I feel their pain. And it's not feeling sorry for them in the standpoint of, I feel bad for them. I mean, I do, but it's just nobody should have to go through that. And that's what I feel for anybody that's out there. So what the story the Keeper is telling is important. I think that he is brave for not only writing this book, but also coming on this podcast and telling this story. I commend him. And just stay tuned because the second part of this interview gets even crazier than than the first part. And so I'm not completely speechless, but almost a little speechless that this is like a Law and Order SVU episode, and to know that this happens in real life, you know it does, but to hear a story firsthand is very, very emotional. So cannot stress enough how thankful I am for Keeper. Listen out for part 2. It's coming out in just 1 week. And if you're listening or watching this after it's already passed, then the show is already out. So tune in, listen, watch. I want to thank you all for listening. I want to thank you all for watching. And until next time, as always, I'll holla. Whew, that was a hell of a show. Thank you for rocking with us here on Unsolicited Perspectives with Bruce Anthony. Now, before you go, don't forget to follow, subscribe, like, comment, and share our podcast wherever you're listening or watching it to it. Pass it along to your friends. If you enjoy it, that means the people that you rock with will enjoy it also. So share the wealth, share the knowledge, share the noise. And for all those people that say, well, I don't have a YouTube. If you have a Gmail account, you have a YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can actually watch our video podcast. But the real party is on our Patreon page, After Hours Uncensored and Talking Straight-ish. After Hours Uncensored is another show with my sister. And once again, the key word there is uncensored. Those are exclusively on our Patreon page. Jump onto our website at unsolicitedperspective.com for all things us. That's where you can get all of our audio, video, our blogs, and even buy our merch. And if you're really feeling genuine and want to help us out, you can donate on our donations page. Donations go strictly to improving our software and hardware so we can keep giving you guys good content that you can clearly listen to and that you can clearly see. So any donation would be appreciative. Most importantly, I want to say thank you for listening and watching and supporting us. And I'll catch you next time. Audi 5000. Peace.